Okay. Well, I just wanted to thank you for this book, Salle Military Academy, For God, For Country, which was their motto back in the olden days. The Life and Death of a Catholic Military School. This was wonderful. And
I knew you would enjoy that.
I did. In reading it last night, I shared in my other session a lot of my own memories and discernments, I guess, about what was going on in the school at different times while I was there. One of the students who wrote in this said that he could see there were cracks developing in the foundation of what he knew LaSalle was. I've forgotten exactly how he said it. He said, I could see small cracks in the armor that eventually widened and led to the school's folding. This was Mario Aguero in '82. Now, I was there in '82, but I just came in '81, so maybe I didn't know him personally, but I know the name. And Stephen McGiff, I knew him. He was on the leadership team, I think, in '82. But these students had been there for 4 years. They could see cracks in the armor. I couldn't see that. All I saw was the wonderful education, the wonderful structure, and the mingling of the two that I just thought was perfect for the most unbelievable type of character building education that you could do. And I had no problem signing on and being a part of that. Even though I wasn't specifically Catholic, I do have a religious side, so that met my needs too. So, but reading this, it gives you a bigger context. There had been a general disillusionment with the military since the Vietnam War of the 60s. I never went to the protests or did any of that, but I was really well aware of it, and it was a negative thing for military, the way our country thinks of military. So that was a part. Again, the Vatican II, which several people in here said, led to some of the relaxing of the principles that were bound to school. For example, every day, you know, you have a homeroom period in your high school times. We had, they used to have, like I think, a devotional time in the morning. That was the, quote, homeroom period. It was held in all the homerooms. That was before my time. When I got there, it was called the faculty something. It was a faculty homeroom session where kids could come and talk about any issue they wanted. And it was a mutual meeting of the minds and discussion time. And then later on, after the centennial, we got this Channel 1 for the schools. It's a subscription, and boy, that helped me. I learned we had to wire every classroom with a TV set and hook it into the main feed. And every morning we had about 12 minutes of world news, local and world, but mostly world news, that was fed right through this TV thing, and I ran that.
Cool.
So, and that's how my son got into television, and because he's the one that did all the wiring that summer and hooked it all up.
Wow.
And showed us how to
You
run
never
it.
know,
So,
right?
Yes, and he was a high school junior himself, so he set it all up. But that took the place in this homeroom period. The faculty discussion time, which some faculty led profound discussions. Others said, okay, free time, visit with your friends. But it was not the structure of the Catholic school anymore. And then we got the news feed, and I think a lot of them would sit and discuss the news after that. So, but that took away the core of the Catholic teaching part, you know, with that. So, or one of the cores. Then they had a weekly mass that was mandatory back in the olden days. By the time I got there, they didn't have that. Well, they had it, but it wasn't mandatory. So, there were a lot of things. Oh, and the big thing, which I didn't know about, I saw the results though, when Vatican II changed a lot of things for the Catholic Church, the brothers saw a drastic drop in vocations. And I didn't know what had happened or how it happened. All I saw when I came, it was all brothers and maybe 5 lay teachers, 2 of whom were women. And after the centennial, it was like 6 or 8 brothers around, for the core of the school, and then all the rest of us were lay teachers and lay people involved in the school, and they were great lay people, don't get me wrong,
Right.
and very religious, most of them too, but it wasn't the same as the brothers. It just wasn't quite the same.
Hmm.
Looking in here now, I can see it all put into one big avalanche rolling downhill that led to the demise of this wonderful school that had a real particular mission, and it kind of got mixed in together with all the other things.
Like
you know?
deconstructed a little bit.
Yeah, deconstructed. And one of them mentioned the global learning communities. Well, that was a phase in our educational growth in this country, to have education for different groups of people and do what was better for that group and better for this group. I don't even know how to make it more specific, but we had an international school where they were basically here to learn English, but they had to take math and science and reading and geography and other things. Then we had a middle school, then we had an elementary school, and LaSalle had a preschool. And then they had, eventually, after '94, I believe they said, just the military high school took in kids who didn't want to be military. And they wore just dress jackets around. And I'm sure to the disdain of the military kids who had to polish everything and be in good form.
Right.
You know, and then eventually they took in women even. Whoa! You know?
Woo!
And you applaud each of these moves as they happen, because yes, it's good for this group, we're doing the right thing for this group, we're meeting a lot of needs, but hey, back up a minute. We dropped the ball somewhere. The main guts of what held us together, as they said in here, wait, I just love this phrase, but the glue that held the school together wasn't there. Yes, in short, the glue that had held LSMA together had dissolved. So it makes sense. Now the whole thing makes sense. And I think it's about the saddest thing that ever happened that I can think of. And I think I shared, I went to the final mass that was held. I called it the decommissioning ceremony. I don't think they called it that, but I did. Brother Joseph, who was my assistant librarian, and he had become the librarian by that time, and Tom Costello, who was the cataloger at the library, they invited me as their guest. And wow, you roll the 10 saddest funerals you ever went to into one, and it was like that. It was just gut-wrenching, the whole thing. Most people,
work went into the place.
Yeah.
Heart.
And the spirit that you gave to it. And people like me, Brother Joseph and Tom sat next to me, and we all sitting there, ooh, ooh, ooh. It was sad.
Yeah.
And then they had a lovely dinner afterwards, and you went and, you know, you hugged all your friends and people you hadn't seen for years. This was 2001, and I left there in '93. So I hadn't seen a lot of people for a lot of years, but they were all there. Everybody was there, you know, and it was hard to eat a good meal after that. It was just too sad, you know. So anyway, but I'm thankful. I feel so blessed to be a part of this community. And yes, it really was pretty separate, I think, from the Oakdale community, which that was a good question, by the way. The people who did get a taste of the Oakdale community were the international students, because they had to go off campus on the weekend to do their laundry. If anybody remembers the old Oakdale Commons, I think it was called, there was a big laundromat in there, and on Saturday mornings, don't even plan to go there, because the LaSalle students were in there. And there
Watch
were
out.
so many. And I'm not sure their relationship with the community was always a friendly one. There was some little itchy places, you know, but they liked the community and they felt at home there, so that was good. But the rest of us, I think we were so into the community and into what we were doing and being a part of what I thought was still going really well. I realize now it wasn't going really well, but I didn't sense the bigger things that were happening, you know, around it. I was doing a great job in my library. My kids were so happy and involved in learning research skills, which I love, teaching that. There were a lot of good things that happened. But it's a sad thing that demised, that it was,
Yeah.
met its demise. But then you have to hope that we go on to something better.
Right.
And I know the brothers of the Christian schools are doing good educational things at Manhattan College. They have St. Mary's College in Winona, Minnesota, where Brother Lewis went. They're doing good educational things in other places. And I know that that mission that they start and live with, I hope they still have more brothers coming in, but I don't know. It seems like the people that I knew were aging out, you know, so I just pray that it continues in some other form, because it was a really, really good thing for young people. So that's my statement, really. So,
Well, thank you so much.
you know,
I,
thank you.
I figured give a librarian a book and she'll have read it one night.
Yeah, I did. I stayed up last night and read this. The
You really got a lot out of that.
yeah, the individual classes didn't interest me as much. They had pictures in here of the different brothers that I knew over the years. Oh, one little thing was cute. The outfit that the brothers wore, it was a black robe. It had a round collar here sticking up. I think this was white. This was a white clergy collar, and then they had two tabs coming down here on it. And that's all it was, very simple and plain. And I guess it's okay to say that my husband was a Methodist minister, and we had a anniversary in our church out in Riverhead, and he was going to reenact one of the sermons of John Wesley. Well, in our research, that's exactly the robe that John Wesley wore, was the thing here and the tabs and the black robe. So Brother Philip Milligan was about Chris's size, and he let us borrow his robe for that occasion, and it was just fantastic. He looked so realistic, and he read a John Wesley sermon, part of it, and it just the whole thing robe came together and made it so realistic. It just, the atmosphere was really good.
That's great.
And Brother Philip was so, I think that the robe was a kind of a, what would you call it, a dedicated thing for religious use type thing. And for him to loan it to Chris, to somebody else out of the order to wear, was like a really big deal. And we felt a little uneasy about it. And so afterwards we took it to have it cleaned and return it to him in perfect condition and all this.
Right.
And we gave him a tape of the sermon and the service and everything, which he was thrilled with. It was just,
Very nice.
these are the kind of little things that wove the community together with the people that worked for them.
Yeah.
You know, and there were many, many little incidents like that
Nice.
that really, really made it special for us as a family. So, thank you for the opportunity. It was good.
Thank you for
Sharing
doing
all
this.
my memories that I didn't even know were in there.